Today's story is about a man who may be responsible for establishing the most significant soul music label in the past 50 years. Motown, which began in the late 1950s, began offering the greatest black music and was responsible for the musical wave that categorized the 1960s sound. This man contributed to the remodeling of the template, which included individuals of many ethnicities, culminating in several well-known works of current popular music. The centerpiece of today's story is all about the extraordinary Berry Gordy. Now, before we start, let's be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and push that notification bell to be sure you won't miss out on any more uploads. Now, without further ado, let's cue that intro. The Gordys had a royal background, but they was also middle class and worked hard for every penny they earned. They was sort of a family who would work for $1 even if they already had thousands. This family will begin with a white man named James Thomas Gordy and his slave Esther Johnson having a child. Berry Gordy was a child, and he had a son with Lucy Haloon, and they named their child Berry Gordy II, or also known as Berry Gordy Sr. or Pops. Pops Gordy and Bertha Fuller will have 8 children together: Esther, Anna, Lizzie, George, Gwen, Barry, and Robert. With this heritage, this will make Berry Gordy and the 39th president, Jimmy Carter, second cousins. The Gordys will move north after hearing of endless of opportunities for black people to work at Ford Motor Company. Pops moved his family from Millersville, Georgia to Detroit, Michigan as part of the Great Migration in 1922. Berry Gordy III was born on Thanksgiving Day, November 28th, 1929. Gordy was born at Detroit's Harper Hospital. This made Gordy the 7th born child to Berry and Bertha Gordy. The Gordys was an ambitious middle-class family with roots in farming and retailing. Pops owned a grocery store, as well as having other companies in plastering, carpentry, and printing. Fuller and George, they will work in the family business, whereas Barry and Robert, they was more younger and less likely to follow in their family footsteps. Both Robert and Barry, they like to dance and they love music, although Barry was more interested in becoming a boxer at this time. Gordy, he won the semi-final Boogie Woogie piano contest at the Michigan Theater as a child while playing Barry's Boogie. He would unfortunately lose to a 5-year-old prodigy named Sugar Child Robinson. Berry dropped out of Northeastern High School in the 11th grade to pursue a career as a professional boxer, intending to get rich quickly. Gordy's boxing career lasted a year until 1951 when Gordy was drafted to serve in the Korean War. In 1953, Gordy would obtain his GED while serving in the military. Upon his return from Korea, he married Thelma Louise Coleman. When Gordy returned from the military, he wanted to follow his passion for music. Gordy will open a jazz record store called 3D Record Mart that will also sell 3D glasses. The whole store objective was to educate people on the beauty of jazz. The record store failed, but it taught Gordy a valuable lesson, and that was to never put all your eggs in one basket. That music was a way of life, but he wanted a fresh approach to the profession. While he worked all of this out, he will obtain a job at the Lincoln Mercury plant. Gordy's family knew a man named Al Green who owned a nightclub. Also, he was a music publisher and was a manager for local artist Jackie Wilson. Gordy quit his job to pursue a new songwriting and producing career. Gordy and his sister Gwen, along with her then boyfriend Billy Davis, among many other songwriters, worked together to provide Jackie Wilson with hits like
Someone to miss when you're away to
As Long As I Live.
the way
We Have Love.
to call our beds. We have nothing that much.
Lonely Teardrops.
Lonely teardrops. My pillow never drops.
That's Why.
The way you sacrifice just for me. Just how lucky can a poor man be? That
And I'll Be Satisfied.
think of me when you're away.
Gordy worked for Brunswick Records for approximately a year and a half, but during this time, he began producing by reinvesting his songwriting profits. Gordy, Gwen, and Davis also partnered together with Chicago-based label Chess Records to work on Etta James' hit song All I Could Do Was Cry.
I saw my love walk down the aisle.
Gordy then met William Robinson, a 17-year-old who would eventually be known as Smokey. In 1957, Smokey and his group, named the Matadors, had an audition for Brunswick at the time. The group would do an audition in front of Alonzo Tucker, Nat Turnerpool, and Berry Gordy. Tucker and Turnerpool was underwhelmed, calling them just another version of the Platters, also going as far to say that there would never be two groups in America with a female member. Gordy followed the group out after the rejection, telling them that he loved them, particularly Smokey's voice. Smokey would offer Gordy his notebook, which contained over 100 songs that he composed. Gordy was intrigued by Smokey's songwriting ambitions, which led to a never-ending friendship. This alliance signaled the beginning of Berry Gordy's thriving roster of legendary musicians. Gordy decided to quit Brunswick Records due to royalty conflicts with label owner Nat Turnerpool. Gordy would help Smokey write the song Got a Job.
Got a job. I got a job.
Gordy then reached an agreement with Detroit label and records to distribute music. At the time, he was only paid $3.19 for his part in the song, which is around $30 in today's money. Now back then, blacks was only paid what the record company wanted to pay them. And you was lucky if you got anything at all. Robinson advised Gordy to start his own label to prevent more embarrassment.
Smokey Robinson
Ray Noma Laos in 1958, but she won a talent contest at a Detroit nightclub. Following the MC's recommendation, she and her sister auditioned for Gordy. Gordy not only met his future wife, Ramona, he also discovered a lady who could help him compose successful songs. Miss Ray was well known across the company for her flawless pitch and ability to write lead sheets. They quickly established the Ray Ball Voice Recording Company. For $100, they would do everything it took to assist a young vocalist in making a record. With a used disc making machine and a rented out studio at United Sound, he would cut the albums for them on a Rayburn record label. Eventually, he hired Al Abrams as a promoter. From composing to arranging, rehearsing, and recorded demos, this allowed them to discover fresh talent. They also performed the Rayburn Voices, which was a studio group that backed up the majority of Motown early recordings. Gordy would persuade his family to lend him money to establish his label. He was expecting $1,000, but he only received $800. Gordy would make the most out of it. He would put this along with whatever he had left over from his early earnings for Brunswick Records to start his own label. Gordy formally started Tamala Records on January 12, 1959. Now, for more information on Motown's beginning history, I advise you to check out the rise and fall of Motown Records. Gordy would hone his songwriting abilities by penning tunes for other performers, beginning with a local entertainer that he met at a fair named Marvin Johnson. Come to Me was among these popular songs. Along with You Got What It Takes,
What it takes to satisfy. You got what it takes to set my
and I Love the Way You Love.
I'm low. You letting me know you always understand.
Gordy would go on to write and produce for many more performers, including Bad Girl by the Miracles,
But she's a bad girl because
Barrett Strong's Money, That's What I Want, Gordy would collaborate with Smokey Robinson for a career-changing moment for the duo with the song Shop Around.
You better shop around. Oh yeah, you better shop around. Shop around.
Gordy combined the Motown and Tamala labels on April 14, 1960 to create the Motown Record Corporation. Soon after, Mary Wells, a then 17-year-old vocalist who was widely unknown at the time, was signed by Gordy to become Motown's second star. In 1960, Gordy struck again by signing the Marvelettes, another elite act, following a great audition. Berry Gordy had a divine knack for both singing and assembling musical talent and skillfully handling the public personas of his performers. As a result, Motown achieved enormous popularity both domestically and globally. Gordy then signed a number of legendary acts over the following 10 years, including the Jackson 5, the Supremes, Marvin Gaye, the Temptations, the Contours, the Four Tops, and Stevie Wonder. The majority of people believe Motown to be an all-black company, yet many people are unaware that they employ people of many colors. Basically, if you knew what you was doing, you found a home. Gordy supported black performers above all else, but he took great care to manage their image so that the public was fascinated with the performance and choreography. Gordy had his sights set on another industry in 1972. He wanted to expand his work in Hollywood, so he would relocate Motown from Detroit to Los Angeles. Many people was displeased with the transfer because they felt abandoned. Despite Detroit's love and support for Motown, which was received with shocking news, with a note that was placed on the door saying moving to LA. Many musicians refused to leave, which led to their release. Gordy put his focus on Motown Productions, which released Lady Singing Blues, their first commercially successful biopic about Billie Holiday. Now this movie won an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Motion Picture, despite being nominated for an Academy Award. Diana Ross, a Motown icon, starred in this movie together with Richard Pryor and Billy D. Williams. Now here's an interesting piece of information on how the movie was made. The lead vocalist of the Four Tops, Levi Stubbs, was initially supposed to play Billy D. Williams' role. Gordy was pressuring the company to give Williams the job, but they refused to budge. Gordy never shied away from doing what was right, so he prevailed, and this movie was made, making Williams a household name. The next major film Gordy would go on to produce was Mahogany, and this was another movie that starred Ross and Williams. Tony Richardson was the movie producer until Gordy fired him and took over the film direction. There was rumors that allegedly Gordy became envious on set during overly dramatic moments with Williams and Ross. In 1985, he also created the martial arts classic movie The Last Dragon. The Jackson 5, Rick James, Lionel Richie, The Barge, Stevie Wonder, and Smokey Robinson was among the record label's great stars. Even though Motown reputation started to fade away in the 70s and 80s, the company was still producing hits. For whatever reason, Motown wasn't doing as well as they once had in the 60s. So Gordy agreed to sell the label to MCA and Boston Ventures for $61 million. He later sold his publishing company to EMI. Out of the 15,000 songs that was in Motown WBPTV music collection, Gordy wrote at least 240 of them. In 1994, the autobiography of Berry Gordy was released, named To Be Loved. Berry Gordy is the father of 8 children by 6 different women. He has 3 children with Thelma Coleman, his first wife, where they was married from 1953 to 1959. The couple's children are Berry Gordy IV, and Hazel Joy Gordy, who was previously married to Jermaine Jackson. The couple chose to call their music publishing business WBT, which was a combination of all their children's names. Between 1960 and 1964, Ramona Mayberry Lowes and Gordy got married. The couple only had 1 kid, his name Kerry Gordy. Berry Gordy would have another son named Kennedy William Gordy, who's popularly known as Rockwell. Gordy would have a daughter with a lady named Gina Jackson. Their child name is Sherry Gordy. He also had a son with a lady named Nancy Visca, and he would have a daughter with Diana Ross named Rhonda Suzanne. Berry Gordy allegedly wasn't always Mr. Nice Guy. In her autobiography named Berry, Motown, and Me, Ramona Lowes, the ex-wife of Berry Gordy, states that things wasn't always perfect, and at one point she had to turn to prostitution to make ends meet at home. Gordy would try to keep this quiet by purchasing stocks from several distributors. Then his sister Gwen would try to minimize the novel by referring to it as a nice fantasy. Furthermore, it was said that Gordy would use his family's support to keep performers on the label. For an example, Jane's marriage to Hazel and Marvin Gaye's marriage to Anna. Most people believe that Gordy made use of his artists because he was an inspiration to many young talents. Therefore, to summarize, he took advantage of young, hungry, uneducated artists. He also had a significant role in Florence Ballard's decision to leave the Supremes. While the talent of all 3 members was amazing, Gordy really pushed Ross into the spotlight when they began dating and hoping for her to turn into a superstar. Gordy also took out a huge chunk of the Jackson 5 income, among many more things. In 1988, Gordy was inducted with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 1998, he was inducted into the Junior's Achievement U.S. Business Hall of Fame. In 2009, he was inducted into the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame. In 2022, he was inducted into the Black Music and Entertainment Walk of Fame, so becoming the very first living person to receive the Songwriters Hall of Fame Pioneer Award on June 13th, 2013. Berry Gordy is one of the best music executives ever. A musical legend who gave us countless of musical icons. He started an entire movement in the 60s by making millions and becoming an expert in entertainment and music. Berry Gordy is indeed a living legend.